The images are stark, terrifying, and impossible to ignore. Wildfires rage across continents, turning skies blood red. Hurricanes, more powerful than ever before, leave trails of devastation in their wake. Floods submerge entire cities, displacing millions. These are not scenes from a dystopian future. They are the realities of our planet in crisis. Climate change, once a distant threat, has become a terrifying present, manifesting in the very air we breathe and the increasingly unpredictable weather patterns we experience. The connection between these extreme weather events and climate change is undeniable. It's a connection underscored by scientific consensus and borne out by the sheer frequency and intensity of these disasters. We are living in an age where the planet itself is sending us an SOS, a desperate plea for action through the escalating chaos of extreme weather events. To ignore these signs is not just irresponsible, it's suicidal. This is not about politics or ideology, it's about the survival of our species and the countless others we share this planet with. The longer we delay action, the more catastrophic the consequences will be. To grasp the urgency of our climate crisis, we need to understand the science behind it. At the heart of the issue lies the greenhouse effect, a natural process that regulates our planet's temperature. Imagine the Earth enveloped in a blanket of gases like carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. These gases trap heat from the sun, preventing it from escaping back into space. This trapped heat is what keeps our planet habitable, allowing life to thrive. However, human activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels, are pumping excessive amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. This overabundance is akin to thickening the Earth's blanket, trapping more heat, and causing the planet's temperature to rise at an alarming rate. This phenomenon, known as global warming, is the driving force behind climate change. As temperatures rise, they disrupt the delicate balance of Earth's climate system, leading to a cascade of effects including rising sea levels, melting glaciers, and more frequent and intense extreme weather events. The Earth's average temperature has risen by approximately 1 degree Celsius, 1.8 degrees Fahrenheit, since the late 19th century, a rate of warming that is unprecedented in human history. While this might seem like a small change, it has profound consequences for our planet's climate system. Like a delicate web, even slight disturbances in one area can ripple outwards, causing widespread disruption. One of the most visible impacts of global warming is the melting of glaciers and ice sheets. As temperatures rise, these frozen reservoirs of fresh water are melting at an alarming rate, contributing to rising sea levels. This poses a direct threat to coastal communities worldwide, increasing the risk of flooding, erosion, and displacement. Furthermore, warmer temperatures fuel more extreme weather events. Hurricanes, for instance, draw their energy from warm ocean water. As ocean temperatures rise due to global warming, hurricanes can intensify more rapidly and unleash even greater fury upon making landfall. The recent wildfires that have ravaged California and Australia are a testament to the tinderbox-like conditions created by prolonged drought and extreme heat. The intensification of hurricanes is one of the most alarming manifestations of climate change. Warmer ocean temperatures provide these storms with more energy, turning them into monstrous forces of nature. Hurricane Harvey, which slammed into Texas in 2017, dumped an unprecedented amount of rainfall, causing catastrophic flooding. Scientists have observed a trend towards slower-moving hurricanes, which linger over affected areas for longer durations, exacerbating the damage. Hurricane Dorian, which devastated the Bahamas in 2019, stalled over the islands for days, its ferocious winds and relentless rainfall leaving behind a trail of unimaginable destruction. The link between these superstorms and climate change is undeniable. As global temperatures continue to rise, we can expect to see even more intense hurricanes, with devastating consequences for coastal communities worldwide. The need to invest in resilient infrastructure and early warning systems has never been more urgent. The images of raging wildfires consuming vast swaths of land have become all too familiar in recent years. From the Amazon rainforest to the Australian outback, these infernos are becoming more frequent, intense, and destructive, fueled by the warming climate. Drier conditions, prolonged droughts, and hotter temperatures create a tinderbox-like environment where wildfires can ignite and spread, with terrifying speed. The 2019 to 2020 Australian bushfires, for example, burned an area larger than the size of Portugal, killing millions of animals and releasing massive amounts of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. These fires were a stark reminder of the interconnectedness of climate change, deforestation, and biodiversity loss. The impacts of wildfires extend far beyond the immediate devastation. Smoke from these infernos can travel thousands of miles, polluting the air and posing serious health risks to millions of people. While the science of climate change is clear, it's the human cost of our inaction that truly underscores the urgency of the crisis. Extreme weather events are not just abstract meteorological phenomena. They are forces of destruction that upend lives, displace communities, and exacerbate existing inequalities. The aftermath of a hurricane, flood, or wildfire is often characterized by scenes of unimaginable devastation. Homes reduced to rubble, businesses destroyed, and entire communities left reeling in the wake of disaster. The human toll of these events is immeasurable, measured in lost lives, shattered dreams, and the trauma of displacement. Climate change acts as a threat multiplier, exacerbating existing social and economic inequalities. It is often the poorest and most vulnerable communities who are hit hardest by extreme weather events, lacking the resources to prepare for, cope with, and recover from these disasters. The impacts of climate change are already being felt around the world, but the future holds even greater risks if we fail to act decisively. Scientists use sophisticated climate models to project future climate scenarios based on different greenhouse gas emission pathways. These projections paint a stark picture of the potential consequences of our inaction. If current trends continue, global temperatures are projected to rise by an additional 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. That's 3.6 to 7.2 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of the century. This level of warming would have catastrophic consequences for our planet, leading to more extreme heat waves, more intense storms, and higher sea levels. Coastal cities would face an existential threat from rising seas, while low-lying island nations could be entirely submerged. The frequency and intensity of extreme weather events would increase, overwhelming our capacity to respond and recover. Droughts and heat waves would become more severe, threatening food security and water resources. The science is clear. Climate change is real, it's happening now, and it's primarily driven by human activities. The impacts of climate change are already being felt around the world, and the longer we wait to act, the more severe and irreversible those impacts will become. We are at a critical juncture, and the decisions we make today will determine the fate of generations to come. Delay is not an option. Every fraction of a degree of warming avoided matters, and every year of inaction increases the risks and costs of addressing the climate crisis. The time for incrementalism is over. We need bold, transformative action to rapidly reduce greenhouse gas emissions and build resilience to the unavoidable impacts of climate change. The urgency of the situation demands a fundamental shift in our mindset and our approach to energy, transportation, agriculture, and consumption. While the scale of the climate crisis can feel overwhelming, it's important to remember that solutions are within reach. We have the knowledge, the technology, and the resources to mitigate climate change and adapt to its unavoidable impacts. What we need now is the political will and collective action to implement these solutions at the speed and scale required. Mitigation efforts focus on reducing greenhouse gas emissions, primarily by transitioning away from fossil fuels and towards renewable energy sources. This includes investing in solar, wind, geothermal, and other clean energy technologies, improving energy efficiency, and promoting sustainable transportation systems. Adaptation strategies, on the other hand, aim to reduce our vulnerability to the impacts of climate change that are already happening or are unavoidable in the near term. This includes investing in resilient infrastructure, such as seawalls and drought-resistant crops, improving early warning systems for extreme weather events, and restoring natural ecosystems that act as buffers against climate impacts. The fight against climate change is not a spectator sport. It's a battle that demands the active participation of each and every one of us. We all have a role to play, from the individual choices we make in our daily lives to the collective action we take to demand systemic change. On an individual level, we can reduce our carbon footprint by adopting sustainable practices such as reducing our energy consumption, using public transportation or cycling instead of driving, choosing sustainable products, and reducing our consumption of meat and dairy. We can also use our voices and our votes to demand action from our elected officials and hold corporations accountable for their environmental practices. Beyond individual action, we need to come together as communities, cities, and nations to implement ambitious climate policies and invest in the solutions that will safeguard our planet's future. This includes transitioning to 100% renewable energy, investing in sustainable transportation systems, promoting sustainable agriculture, and protecting our forests and oceans. The climate crisis is a defining challenge of our time, but it is not insurmountable.